Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. For those of you that like to get to the juicy story where you have the straightforward Bigfoot encounter, well, I've got that for you on this channel right now. But the full stories are really worth listening to, and I've got them listed at the bottom, because really, just the Bigfoot encounter without the whole experience from the beginning to the middle and the end is really worth listening to. But if you just want to get to the juicy encounter that people have sent in to me, by all means, here are a few examples of them right now on my channel. So get straight into the business, shall we? And let's get started. What if someone stole an ape from the zoo? What then? I asked. My father looked incredibly alarmed. Don't even think about it, sonny boy. An ape stolen from a zoo goes right back to its mother where it rightly belongs. So don't you even think about it, or I'll come after you like a steam train, sonny boy. Thanks, Dad, I said. You've just answered my question. The following morning I told my friends that we had to confront Ditsy Dot head on about the ape that she had stolen, because she needed to return it to the mother immediately, and it was as straightforward as that, and we needed to return it to the zoo from whence it actually came. Moving forward, as you can imagine, confronting Ditsy Dot about the little ape was not an easy discussion to have, but finally she did admit that she had found the ape in the woods when she was gathering pine cones. I thought I'd give him a ride in my cart, she said, when I found him in the nest. But when I got home I realised he was still sitting in the cart and that I'd brought him back with me by mistake. So I had been taking care of him ever since with formula, and he's very happy, I promise you. You got this ape from the woods? I asked in shock. You didn't steal it from the zoo? No, it's from the woods, she insisted. How would I be able to take a zoo ape? You can't even reach them in their glass cages. I examined the baby ape very closely, taking her into my arms. I've never been keen on babies before, but this baby was the exception to that rule. She was the sweetest, most adorable, affectionate, lovable and funny baby that I've ever seen in my entire life. It was the size of a 1-year-old baby, but this creature was much younger than that. It was much more alert and brighter than a human baby, with these very big, brown, interested eyes that would follow you everywhere with an inquisitive interest and intrigue. It appeared unusually bright and sharp and clever for its age, and unlike a human baby, it didn't howl or cry at all. It just seemed to make a very cute little chattering sound. I noticed that the pinkish creature was also quite human-like in appearance, much more so than actually ape, which did leave me wondering what this curious ape-like creature was, with only a little scattering of hair over its body. It kept reaching out to play with my hair and tugging it with its little hand, and when I reacted with a "ouch," it would chuckle away happily to itself. Mrs. Dickens, I said, if you really did get this baby ape from the woods, we really are going to need to return it to its mother. You have unintentionally embezzled a baby ape, and it is morally reprehensible and very wrong. If this were a human child, you would be in very serious grave trouble with the police. You would have already been arrested, and your face would be splashed all over the papers, and everybody would be talking about you in town. Imagine what the poor mother is feeling without her baby. I know for an 11-year-old I was laying it on very thick, but I really wanted Ditsy Dot to understand the gravity of this very serious situation. Ditsy Dot's innocent brown eyes flooded with tears. I didn't mean to take the baby, she repeated. I was just giving him a ride in the shopping cart, and I forgot he was still in there when I got home. I know all that, I said, trying to reassure her. Mrs. Dickens, try and remember whereabouts in the woods you found the baby. I urged her. We really need to return it to the mother. It was under the very old oak tree, on the right side of the forest overlooking the stream. I found it in a nest there, she said, it sounding much more coherent and compos mentis than she had for a very long time. I think my strong words had quite literally shaken her out of her dithery state, and she was suddenly beginning to comprehend the frivolity of what she'd actually done. Suddenly I was feeling incredibly grown up and important, and I realised that the job I was doing today was the most salient job of my entire life. I was returning a baby to its mother, and it doesn't get more important than that. But I was baffled and very confused
as to how it was possible or even plausible that a little ape-like being was actually living in the woods and being raised by a mother in North America of all places. Ditsy Dot had finally satisfied me that she had indeed acquired the baby in the woods, and I had no choice in the circumstances but to believe her and to take her solemn word for it. Besides crazy she may be, but she most certainly was not a liar, and was usually as open as a book, unlike the other adults that I knew. Luckily I was able to recover my old stroller from the back of our garage, which my mother had never ever thrown away, in the vain hope that she'd fall pregnant again. I gather it was a miracle that she had fallen pregnant with me in the very first place, as the doctors had assured her that she was unlikely that she'd ever have children again. So my mother was amazed when I came along. My mother had unrelentingly hung on to the fleeting, yearnful hope that one day a miracle of nature would abound, and she would be blessed with a baby girl. But to date that long-hoped-for voracious miracle had all but eluded her. So there we were, all three of us kids, venturing towards the woods to return the baby ape. The beautiful ape-like humanoid was being wheeled along in the stroller like a regular child, and she appeared to be enjoying the ride, as her cute little face was making the sweetest expressions, and her bright brown inquisitive eyes were assimilating everything and missing nothing. She kept making the cutest chattering sounds, and appeared to be really enjoying her little adventure. "She is the most beautiful baby I've ever seen," said Eloise. "I so wish we could keep her. She's just so cute." "Well, we can't, Eloise," I snapped. "I wish you would stop acting all grown up and important, just because we're delivering an ape to its mother. It's all gone to your head, I think," said Eloise. "I liked you better when you wanted to be Peter Pan. Then you were really like a child." "Today, Eloise," I told her, "is my day to be a man. We have a very important job to do." I truly had no idea what to expect as we entered the woods. I knew we could not leave the baby without ensuring that the mother returned to collect it, otherwise it was truly abandoned. I would reluctantly then have to involve my parents as to what the next course of action should be. As it had only been 48 hours since Ditsy Dot had taken the baby from the woods, I was really praying with all my heart that mother and son would be finally reunited. The pine forest was very beautiful and smelt like Christmas. I always loved this place because it was such a tranquil haven and a glorious area to play around with my friends, especially when the sunny weather was way too hot on a summer's day. I always found the shade of the forest so cooling and refreshing, offering just enough light through the branches to allow the beams of sunlight to dapple the forest floor in a soft, pretty light. The forest was full of maples, red oaks, ash, spruce and pine trees, and it was always teeming with an abundance of wildlife, from white-tailed deer to squirrels and rabbits, and so it was not a surprise for us to uncover a very inquisitive squirrel tucking into an acorn and observing us with a very keen interest, as if to say, "What are you doing here?" The forest was filled with a chorus of pretty birdsong and warbles, and I could feel my heart fluttering with excitement. I just knew in my gut that something quite magnificent was about to transpire. I could sense it in every fibre of my being. "She's expecting us," said Eloise suddenly. "I feel it in my gut. She knows we're returning her baby. She's been expecting us for quite a while." Colin looked startled. "I can't believe you said that." "I've been thinking the very same thing," he said. "The thought just wafted in my head from nowhere. And I've never been much of a thinker. I usually just draw blanks, but I keep thinking she's expecting us." "I feel it too," I said. She must really be waiting for us." Suddenly we found the oak tree that Ditsy Dot had told us all about, and sure enough there was a nest there lying in between a pile of rocks, stacked up like a fire pit, creating a rustic-looking cot, in the woods, and placed in a very discreet area tucked away from inquisitive prying eyes. It was hard to believe that Ditsy Dot had even discovered it. The nest was lined with soft mosses and grasses, and I knew at once that this was the baby's little nursery, and I lifted up the baby and put it into the stone-like cot. "Now we need this to hide close by to make absolutely sure the mother returns to collect her baby," I told my friends. "Now hide. We haven't got much time to lose." All three of us proceeded to take cover behind the shelter of a very large, grand oak tree, and then we saw her. She came dashing out of the shadows faster than a flash of greased lightning, and proceeded to grab her baby very quickly and fast, and hold her baby in her arms as if her very life depended on it. And she wore a jubilant, happy expression all over her face. I could feel tears welling and rising in my eyes, and even Eloise was crying. "I can't help myself," she admitted. "This is the most poignant reunion I've ever seen. The mother is deliriously happy, and so is the baby. Look, the baby's so delighted to see its mother. Look how happy it is. I can't believe this. This is so magical." But what was she, I wondered, marvelling the mother for a compelling moment, because I had no idea what kind of bipedal creature she actually was. The only way I can describe her to you is looking like she was part human and part ape, if that's at all possible. There was no doubt she was magnificent. I was marvelling her in the same way that I would admire a lion or a rhino, because that's how imposing and majestic and impressive she was. Even though I was very young at the time, I would guess she was at least over 8 foot tall. You see, my dad's over 6 foot, and this creature would have easily towered over him by at least 2 feet. I think she was between 700 and 800 pounds and about 4 foot wide. She was covered all over her body with long flowing hazel brown hair, and it was a little matted and tangled in parts, but that did not matter at all or make her any the less more awesome. I noticed she had very overlong arms that were so big she would possibly have no difficulty walking on all fours as on 2 feet. Her whole body was massively colossal and ripped with muscle in every single area. I think she could have easily made a bodybuilder look small in comparison to her. The shoulders on her body were quite literally huge and highly developed and very pronounced, reminding me of those swimmers that swim the butterfly stroke in the Olympic Games. I noticed her head was shaped like a cone and she virtually had no neck. I was observing her through my binoculars behind the tree in anticipation of getting a really brilliant view of her, and my sharp lens definition did not disappoint. Her face was both gentle and kind and sweet, and so was that of her baby. I could definitely see the resemblance, and there was no doubt in my mind that the baby was most assuredly hers, although her full dangling, hair-covered breast announced her motherhood only too clearly. I noticed she had yellow-brown deep-set eyes, a furrowed brow ridge, and a very large flat nose, and a slender mouth. We stood in awful admiration as we observed her cradle her baby, tuck it under her arms, and then move away so incredibly fast. It was a powerfully stirring and effacious moment for all three of us. 1 minute she was there, and then she was gone as fast as lightning. She moved with elegance, grace and speed, just like that of a cheetah, and you could have been forgiven for saying, "Did I really actually just see that?"
So there we are. That's the juicy bits of our stories tonight. I personally think you should go back and listen to the whole story because it makes it so much more exciting, because then you learn all about where it happened, the location, and all about the fabulous characters involved in the story, and that makes the story so much more gripping. But as I say so, go down to the description and then click on to the YouTube link, and then you will hear the whole story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.